Hello to all students in religion and sexuality. This brief PowerPoint presentation is on religion and the erotic. The primary reading for this particular PowerPoint is Audre Lorde's uses of the erotic. It's a part of your reading list on Blackboard. I've already posted it, so if you have not read it yet, do read it. It's a relatively short and uncomplicated read, but I'm using her essay as a point of departure for talking about religion and the erotic. And we'll begin with the Greek words for love because eroticism and the erotic, it has the Greek word eros. But unlike the English language for love, unlike the English language, we have one word for love. For instance, we can say, I love somebody, or I love my school, or I love chocolate cake. Now, obviously, we're not talking about love in the same way, but that one word love we use for the same thing, for an object that we eat, and for a person that we might have some affection for. But the Greeks are more nuanced in describing love. They recognize that there are different levels of what we call love. And in no particular order. The first is what is called phalusia. And these words that I have are English transliterations of the Greek words. If I had put these words up in Greek, you wouldn't understand what they were. So I'm just putting these English transliterations up. But the first one again is phalusia, or love of the self. Now, sometimes this love of the self can be narcissistic. That is, you love yourself so much that you ignore all others. It's about egotism. It's about placing yourself above everyone else in all situations. Extreme self-love, so to speak. Or it could be a healthy self-interest. If we look at some, as a matter of fact, all of the major world religions have an aspect of loving your neighbor as you love yourself. Although we may only hear about it in Christianity, quite a few say that in order for you to love somebody else, you must love yourself. So there's always this tension between a healthy self-interest love and a narcissistic love. So, but the Greeks did understand that there was this kind of love of self, which they call philautia. And then there is pragma. We get such words as pragmatism. And pragma is a long-standing love. It looks at life, it looks at things practically, and understand that things are things and people are people. So I'm going to look at it and practice this pragma, this long-standing love, not because uh, I get anything from this thing, this object, or this person, but it's the utility, the practicality of this particular love. And then there's what's called agape. We hear this quite a bit in Christianity about Jesus practicing agape love. This is a love for everyone, a love for a person because that person is a human being just like you are. Um, so you love them. They are going through the same things that you're going through. They have the same facts and foibles as you do, and you recognize that we all have this thing of humanity in common. And sometimes this agape love can extend to other sentient beings, like other animals, things like of that nature. So it's not about I have a an erotic attraction to you. It's just that I love you because you are a human being. Probably the best way of thinking about this is a respect for somebody else, for being someone. So we have Phalusia, Pragma, Agape, and then Ludus, or playful love. This is the love that the Greeks used to describe perhaps a first love. You know, you're growing up, you see somebody say, I like her or I like him. You're probably just a young person, teenager, maybe even, and you have the first stirrings of an attraction to somebody, and you don't quite understand what this attraction is, what this stirring is. The Greeks have a word for that. It's called ludus. It's like I have here, it's akin to puppy love, something that you're gonna outgrow. You're gonna outgrow being a puppy into a full-grown dog, so to speak. And when you do that, you outgrow that kind of love. And then there's philia, or deep friendship, or brotherly love. The city of Philadelphia has this Greek root word, philos. It's about brotherly love. It's not about again not about attraction. It's that this is a love of my fellow human being, a deep friendship. And then you have storge, or parental love, or love or acceptance of a given situation, or even love of nation. This kind of love is the kind that you have by the mere fact of somebody, or you being a part of somebody, or something or somebody being a part of you. Um, a love of this being because I produced this being, or I love this of the situation because I'm in it. So I'm going to do the best I can to work my way through it. So as opposed to me complaining about it, let me accept it for what it is and move on through it. Or this is my country. I was born into it. I may not agree with everything my country does, but I storge my country. And then we get to what we are going to deal with, eros. Eros is deals with sexual attraction. It deals with the notion of pleasure, of fulfillment, of sensual fulfillment. Um, it encompasses a range of emotions that we call attraction to somebody, be that attraction is to a person of the same sex or the opposite sex. That is, something stirs within us that compels us to be attracted to this person or this thing. Now, eros is is not strictly about sex. Sex, and when I'm talking about sex, I'm talking about sexual intercourse here. Sexual intercourse can be a part of eros, but sexual intercourse does not encompass all of what eros is. And that gets us into the reading from Audre Lorde, Uses of the Erotic. Again, if you have not read it yet, please do so. Um, she raises some interesting points in terms of what eroticism means and how it can apply to all of life. She begins by saying that erotic or eroticism is a life force. It's a creative energy. It's an empowered creative energy that compels us to a certain extent go beyond our mundane, profane world. It compels us to reach beyond ourselves. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to deal with sex. And this power is from sharing deeply with something or someone else. Um, it can be an emotional attraction, it can be an intellectual attraction, it can be a companionable attraction, it can be the attraction of two colleagues working closely together, and as opposed to them using that erotic, that force to engage in sexual activity, they use that force to engage in creative activity, to create a new a new designer drug, or to create a new theory of relativity, or to create a new way of talking about God, and so on and so forth. But it takes this force that draws persons together. And it's not just about two people, it can be two or more people. And this force is open and fearless, this fearless capacity for joy. When you are creating something together, you experience an elation behind it. Again, whatever it may be. Or you may be a painter. You love to paint, and you put all of your creative energy into creating this art. You work hard at it, and you deal with it, and you bring out the best of yourself into this painting. And at the end of the process, what you have produced is something that brings you some great joy, and it also may bring others great joy. And you do this openly and without fear. There's no shame in what you produce. There's no shame in your creative energy. There's no shame in the power, the life force that you put into it. And the sharing of this power is of each other's feelings. Um, and let me unpack feelings here. I know a lot of times we like to say, um, he or she is all up in her feelings now, or his or her feelings. Um, that's that is they're using feelings in a negative sense, that there is something wrong with you in your feelings. In this sense of feelings, it's about going into that deep well of those emotional connections that we can have if we allow ourselves to have it. But we can only have it if we tap into and share that erotic life force. Oh, and let me say as a caveat here, Audre Lorde is writing this to black women. So is specifically talking about black women tapping into the power of the erotic. But she does use language to indicate that this erotic energy may not only be available to black women, so other people can tap into the erotic. Um, and I get the distinct impression that the way she's talking about the erotic, I would dare say, it's not just a life force. It's not just an empowered creative energy. It's an empowered creative feminine energy that 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 is of necessity is more available to women, but can be available to men too if they allow themselves to tap into that feminine aspect of who they are. But this helps us to share that power by tapping into those common feelings that we have, especially when those feelings compel us to create something. And in this sense, the erotic does not equal pornography. And I know a lot of times when, and I asked this question in class before, how many of you have seen pornographic film? A lot of times, pornographic films are listed as an erotic movie. Um, no, it's not an erotic movie. It's a pornographic movie. Eroticism is something way beyond pornography. Um, the erotic is something internal. That is, it's this creative energy that comes up out of a person, that connects with the creative energy that comes up out of other people, and that connection is what makes whatever they're producing erotic. Pornography, on the other hand, is external. Any pornographic movie you look at, it's not about really tapping into your feelings. It's about tapping into the physiology of who you are. It's about making you display certain physiological responses. You get an erection, your vagina get moist, and so on and so forth. It's about that external manifestation of sexual pleasure. So eroticism is not that at all. Pornography is, I dare say, a bastardization of what the erotic can be. So in this sense, erotic or the eroticism is greater than sex. That is sexual intercourse. And by the same token, pornography is less than or equal to the erotic. Um, and I'm going to be talking about eroticism throughout the remainder of this course. And I want us to make sure that we look at Audre Lorde read it to get her sense of how she's talking about eroticism. And we're going to expand on that term, especially as it relates to can religious activity, be it a worship service, be it a gathering of other people in a communal kind of setting, be it community yoga. Can these kinds of things be erotic? Can these kinds of things tap into that internal creative energy that we all have? Can it help us to connect with those internal feelings of other people to make sure that we can uh, come up with products, come up with things that is a result of our erotic energy? So now what I'm just going to do is give you a series of photos or pictures to look at. And I'm going to have them up for a short period of time as we go through them, and you decide within yourself, is what you're seeing, is it a display of love as eros, or or eros as love, or is it a display of religion? Is it a display of sexuality? Is it a display of pornography? But just look at them, and I'm not going to say anything as I go through them. And when I get back, we will discuss and talk about what these photos mean to you. So again, I will see you all on next Tuesday and we can discuss these particular photos.